everyone, and welcome to Doodle Therapy, our friendly little corner here on the internet where we come together to doodle, chill, and hang out with a special guest artist every week. I'm your host, Alice, and we are joined today by an amazing guest. Please welcome letterer extraordinaire and fellow snacks lover, Lauren Hom. Hey, Lauren.
Hello. Hi, Alice.
It's great to have you with us, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, especially on our final stream of 2020. So it's so exciting to have you. And hey to everyone who is joining us live in the chat, to Jessica, Ryan, Sam, Bob, Laura, Golden, Cassie. There's so many people saying hi, and please feel free to introduce yourself and share where you're joining us from. This week, our theme is really special with Lauren since it's our final stream of the year. Normally, we will do a topic that's more an illustration topic, like comics or children's book illustrations. But this year, because we're on the cusp of 2021, we thought that it'd be fun to do a theme around a new year and having new horizons. So Lauren and I are going to get chatting about that in a second. But really quickly, if you're new to the stream, welcome. It's great to have you. This is a bi-weekly show here on Adobe Live where we just come together to chill and doodle. And it's also an interactive show, so you are totally invited to draw along with us as we explore the prompt together. So without further ado, let's, please give Lauren a very warm welcome in the chat. And Lauren, I'm going to share some of your work here on this stream. Do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everybody. For those of you who aren't familiar with me, my name is Lauren, and I am a hand lettering artist, designer, art maker person. I was formerly in the advertising world and then made my way over to the lettering world by way of Tumblr, which I feel like that dates me when I talk about Tumblr. Oh, but it has such a a special place in my heart. And yeah, now I run my very own, I can't even say one woman studio anymore because I have one full-time employee, very exciting. Run my tiny little design studio out of Detroit, Michigan. I'm originally from California, was born and raised in in the South Bay, but in Southern California. When Alice and I first met, I think online, or we can talk about the story of how we got in touch, but you mentioned you were also the South Bay. There was the South Bay in Northern California as well. And so I think we got those mixed up at first, thinking we were from the same place or knew of the same place. And then I went to school in New York City. I went to the School of Visual Arts, and then I went and traveled for a while, and now I'm in the Midwest. So I really only have the South and then the Pacific Northwest to hit to be able to have said I've lived in all of the regions of the United States.
Wow, it sounds like you've had such a journey. I, on the other hand, grew up in California and went to school in Philly, but then I came back to California, which is where I've been. So it's cool to hear about. And yeah, we can get
California's
into
great.
Yeah,
I think that I'll end up there eventually. So maybe we'll be neighbors-ish. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe. And we should totally share the story of how we became internet friends.
It's really good.
A long time ago. And also I want to say hey to everyone who is joining and also sharing where they're watching from. We've got Amelia in Arkansas, Cassie in Maryland. We've got Ryan Appleton. Hello, Ryan. And
hi,
Kyle. Ryan. Yeah, so it's great to see everyone. I'm joining us from San Francisco. And like I've mentioned, I'm an illustrator and a muralist. I'm based in San Francisco. And, it's so exciting to have Lauren on this week because, like I mentioned, we are at the end of the year, and we've been just talking about new changes that we want to make, new horizons, not letting yourself get into a rut or a plateau and stay where you are just because that's where you're familiar, like pushing yourself out of the comfort zone. So I'm going to transition over to the drawing portion of the stream now. But basically what we're going to do this stream, or what the prompt is we're each going to work on something that's just a little bit out of our comfort zone. So Lauren is going to create something that does not have lettering in it or minimal lettering. And I am not someone who does a lot of typographic work, but I'm going to try something with a little bit more typography in it. And so our prompt for you, if you're joining us, is to also try to push yourself and create a doodle or a piece that is a little bit outside your comfort zone. Could be something that you've been dying to try. It could be as simple as a sketch or a full piece. And if you end up sharing it and submitting it online, you can at me at by Alice Lee. I will select a winner at the end of the week to receive a giveaway prize of some stickers. So yeah, but I think just enough about me and the setup. I would love to just chat about some ideas for New Horizons and what you're thinking about drawing, Lauren.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Alice mentioned, I am mostly known as a hand lettering artist, and I've been doing that for about 8 years now, which feels like such a long time. And over the last couple years, I think I've been feeling it's been an interesting ride because it's like I found what I like to do and I'm finding success there and building my business on that. But as many creatives are, like I also have this itch to like try a bunch of other things and be multidimensional, but it kind of goes contrary to a lot of the business advice that I've absorbed. And so there's a little bit of an identity crisis, but I have always loved drawing and illustration as well. And I will sprinkle it in with my lettering work sometimes. And so I think it's kind of like a lot of you have probably heard this advice before of like, dress for the job you want, but like with your portfolio, right? Like do the kind of work for the kind of projects you want to get. And so I think this is, another tie-in that I recently announced that in 2023, I want to go to culinary school and either make a complete pivot or just like dip my toes in the food world with my art background. And with that in mind, I want to start exploring more illustration and like food themed work. I make a lot of food themed work already, but I think challenging myself to not use lettering is interesting to me. And so this image that I have on my screen right here is actually an old image of right before I painted the mural that's currently in my studio, and I just multiplied a color on top. So this, I think, is going to be around the color that I'm going to choose for the background color. Right now it's like pastel blue, which is totally my vibe, but I think I'm ready for like a change. I don't know. It's kind of the theme of the stream, right, Alice?
Yeah.
Like new year, new horizons. Like many of you this year, I'm guessing, I played a ton of Animal Crossing New Horizons. So that's like a triple tie-in here. I haven't logged in like 4 months, and I'm pretty sure all of my villagers hate me.
Every time I log in, there's always a cockroach because that's how they show that you haven't logged in. And I also do want to go back to this previous slide that people can see the original mural that's right above your avatar, like your head. So that's what it used to look like. And now Lauren is working on mocking up the design for the new mural in that same space.
Yes. Yeah, and I can show you actually, this is a sneak peek into some other stuff I've been working on, but because I'm passionate about design and also food and cooking, this month I took a little break from work. So I turned 30, maybe two.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I turned 30 about a month ago, and my present to myself was to take the month of December off from client work. And so I've just been working on my own stuff this month, and I'll show you the inspiration. So here, I'll zoom in a little bit. I've been decorating cookies for the last 2 weeks with royal icing. This is just sugar cookies and royal icing, and I have been really enjoying it because I think, earlier in the stream before we logged in, we were talking about, I really like the idea of making more like organic shapes and like loose work that feels handmade. But when I sit down on my iPad, I often just fine tune it to the point where it's like pixel perfect and it doesn't have a lot of that like free form that I, in my head, thought I would get. So with the royal icing, it's been really interesting because it's like sugar water basically, and you only have a limited amount of time to work with it before it crusts over and dries. And so I've just been painting cookies basically it's kind of like a mix between painting and, have you seen like that acrylic pour art where you like pour like fluid resin art, I think? Yeah. It's kind of like that. You're pouring frosting into frosting. And so I want to do like a botanical or maybe even produce, like fruits and veggies incorporated in there, kind of illustration with the same kind of loose, wavy line quality. I don't know if you can, I'll zoom in really close. It's
No,
like
I love it.
imperfect and kind of wonky. I love it too, but I've never been able to do it with an iPad or like with my
Ah,
current digital design skills. So I'm trying to emulate it now that I've done it analog in real life. Fingers
yeah.
crossed.
So, in case you're just joining us now, these are not miniature paintings. These are cookies. Can you believe it?
Yes,
These
they're
are
edible.
cookies. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
there are
Let
cookies
me
that
see. I have one
Lauren,
right next to me.
yes, she made
A
them
real cookie.
and created these beautiful little paintings basically, but from cooking supplies, like icing basically. That is amazing.
Why,
Um,
thank you. Let's see if I can
yeah.
do it digitally.
Yes. So I love, how you're talking about, all of these different side passion projects, but at the same time, for those who are just joining us, Lauren just referenced an announcement that she recently made that she plans to take a sabbatical in 2023 in 2 years from now. 2 years, yes, 2 years from now, and attend culinary school full time while taking a break from lettering and design work. So I think that's so cool. And I also think it's really interesting that you point to these side projects that are all culinary related. And it's like there is a thread that is sort of emerging in your work, but you don't see it when you're creating it. You see it when you look back. It's like, oh, I have always really liked food and, creating pieces with my food. And yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, totally. And it's interesting too, because that's been a theme in my work since college, probably. I
Mm.
took a communication design class with Gail Anderson when I was at SBA, and she let us kind of do whatever projects we wanted to do. I don't know why. Oh, my pencil's so big. And all of my projects ended up like going back to food. And it was she ended up setting me up with an internship with Louise Feely, even, who's like
Oh, cool.
iconic and
Yeah.
like legendary. And she's like a designer who's really carved out a niche for herself in the food space as well, with packaging and restaurant branding. And I think because I was actually an advertising major, I resisted it a ton, because I don't know if you've experienced this, but when you get it in your head, like what kind of career you want, or maybe it's a major in school, like, and you kind of see this path for yourself, it's hard to deviate from
Yeah.
that, especially when you've invested time into it. And so I
Totally.
had it in
Yeah.
my brain that I was just going to go into advertising, and any design stuff on the side would just be for fun or just a hobby. And it ended up being ended up being my job with lettering because of Tumblr. And now I find myself in a similar position where I was so dead set on advertising in my early 20s, and then I ended up switching gears, that now at 30, I've been so dead set on making lettering a thing, and it has become a thing for me. And now I'm starting to set my sights on something else, and it feels equally as scary and challenging to kind of reorient my path.
Yeah. That is a really interesting parallel, and it's something I've been chatting a lot with about some of my studio mates and dear friends about what our goals are, looking forward to the next year. And that's kind of a prompt that I'd love to ask the chat, which is, we are basically at the end of one year, 2020, crazy year. And as you look back on this year and look ahead to 2021, what are some things that come to mind when you ask yourself, what you'd like to potentially try exploring? Maybe that's the thing that you've been scared to do, or maybe it's something that has been a little inconvenient to do. But that's really the theme of what we're trying to talk about here, which is, what is the thing you're trying to explore? And on my end, actually, do you mind if I share a little bit about what I'm working on over here?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Because you
Yeah.
mentioned you don't do a lot of lettering, but I think when we first met, I remember there was, for some reason, I remember seeing some lettering in your portfolio back in 2013.
Yes, I used to do lettering more as a hobby, but it's not something that I've explored a lot of recently as an illustrator. So I would actually love your guys' help with figuring out. So what I did is I went to Lauren's lettering generator, WTFshouldIletter.com. And it's basically a phrase generator for fun things to letter. And I chose the phrase "making art, breaking hearts," which I got from that website. And so I basically made 3 sketches, and I'd love some help in figuring out which sketch I should take to final, because I'm a little rusty on the lettering side. So I tried a couple of different compositions. One is like, I think just pure fun. It's like pure candy to me. So we'll call this one A. It's just a script that says "making art, breaking hearts." And then the other one is more of a, slightly more laid out, broken up composition where I've got this like little arc. I tried to set up a grid, "making art, breaking hearts." And then this is, I think, probably the closest to my comfort zone, which I basically drew this like posse of girls, and across their outfits, it says "making art, breaking hearts," across like their bomber jacket and, bag and laptop stickers. So if you have a strong opinion on which one you would personally like to see lettered, let me know, because I want to keep this show interactive. So yeah, that's kind of where my piece is headed for this stream.
I think they all look great. And if we're, talking about breaking out of comfort zones, I don't know. I'm such a big fan of your work anyways. I love your illustrations. So of course I want to see that. But for those of you who are watching along and want to draw something as well, I definitely encourage you to try something that maybe has been taking up space in the back of your mind subtly of like, oh, it'd be cool if I tried ... but you just haven't let yourself do it for one reason or another. Give it a shot. See what happens. Nothing bad can come out of it.
Totally. And I also had an idea to potentially put "making art, breaking hearts" on the back of like a jacket or something. I've actually personally gotten into embroidery, so that this might be a fun option for the pure lettering version, whereas this
I tried doing embroidery and I couldn't do it. I didn't have the patience for it. But these cookies are very like time consuming as well, so I don't know what it was about the medium that didn't resonate with me. But that's amazing you've been getting into embroidery, because I wanted to.
Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. I actually, this past week, I got very obsessed with the art of Chinese knots, and I made these earrings. If anyone else wants to get
earrings? Oh.
Yes, if anyone else wants to get into Chinese knotting, let me know, because me and my studio mates are extremely obsessed, and we will, we can form a team together of knotting hobbyists.
How exciting!
Yes, it is
I
fun.
love learning about the other stuff designers are making.
Yeah, me too. I've enjoyed watching you share more of your just personal art hobbies as well, like the dress that you are working on. So also, I'm seeing in the chat that it seems like a toss-up between B and C. So maybe I'll do both, and then I'll just option B will be for the back of the shirt, and then option C might just be for my fun little illustration. So fun stuff.
Do you think we should tell everybody the fun story of how we got in touch all those years ago?
Yeah, let's do it. Yes.
I can recall. So it's funny because whenever people ask me about networking or finding clients, I personally have never done like a mailer or like cold outreach. And I know it can be really effective, but passion projects have kind of been my organic marketing arm. But anyways, the way that Alice and I got in touch was when I was working in advertising in 2013. Of course, no one was really sending me, a junior art director, much mail or many promos, because I just I wasn't really on the map as an art director. And so I never really got any mail. And then one day around the holidays, I checked my mailbox and there was this beautiful like letterpress. Was it letterpressed? I think it was letterpressed. It was so pretty. Holiday card from Alice saying like, hey, like, I really enjoy your work. Happy holidays, something along those lines. And I was like, how did she get this address? How does she know that I work at BBDO? And like, it's on my resume. It was probably on my LinkedIn, and it's not hard to look up the address of an ad agency. And so I emailed her back, and we kind of stayed in touch after that on the internet. But that was a very successful reach out. I think that's a really good strategy to reach out to people who are junior designers or art directors at their place of work, because it caught me off guard in a good way. It was a nice surprise.
Yeah, I think when I sent that card out, I was in the middle of a really tough time creatively. I had just gotten into a job that I was so psyched for, but I didn't feel super creatively fulfilled at. And I realized that a lot of my friends weren't fellow creatives. A lot of my friends were, a lot of people I talked to were like engineers or, more people on the tech side. So when I sent out those cards, I basically just thought about like, whose work do I really admire on the internet, who I like want to be friends with, like, just internet friends with. And so that's how I ended up sending you a card, because I followed your art Tumblr, and I think somewhere it had said that you worked at that ad agency. Mm-hmm. So then I was like, okay, I'll send Lauren a card too. And then we became friends, which is awesome.
Yeah. Such a small world. But I think, especially now with so much digital communication, like DM inboxes, email inboxes, like LinkedIn messages, all Twitter, I think that, sending, I don't have experience doing cold outreach in any regard, but I've been on the receiving end of that. And I'd say yours was, cool. Yeah, I mean, your message definitely stood out, and you weren't even promoting anything. It was just like a hi. And
I was just like, you're cool. Delightful. Happy holidays. I actually created a holiday card that year because I didn't feel, I wanted a creative outlet. And I didn't feel like I was creatively fulfilled through my current job situation. So I was like, I'll give myself the challenge. I can like design my own card, and then I'll, letterpress it, and then I'll just send it out to my friends. And some people who I think are awesome. And so that's how
Were you at Dropbox at the time? I can't remember the timeline. Okay.
Yes, I was at Dropbox. And then we became internet corresponders, friends. And then Lauren emailed me asking about the tech industry and my experiences working in tech. And then I emailed her asking about how she found an agent to work with. And then Lauren literally just forwarded me the actual email that she sent to her agent, who she still works with. So that was very generous of you. So thank you. Yes.
Oh, of course. And that's the thing too. Like when I reached out to try to find an agent, I had no idea what I was supposed to do. And I just kind of went for it. My 23-year-old naivete worked for me. And I always share that with people because it worked for me, and it's no guarantee for someone else, but it's helpful. It's like, I find that with new things, like reaching out to somebody or trying a new thing in your business or work, it helps if you just at least have a roadmap for what someone else did, so you can kind of tweak it to your own personal taste and see if it works for you. Yeah. Because when you're starting with nothing, it's like staring at a blank canvas. It can be really, really hard.
Totally. It can be very intimidating. And I'm seeing a question from Amelia. So feel free to, ask questions in the chat. We are here to,
please do.
Have an interactive convo. Amelia wants to know what did you include in the letter? I'm not sure if Amelia means my letter to you or your letter to the agent. My letter to Lauren was pretty straightforward. It was just like, happy holidays. Your work is awesome. Yay. I think, Lauren, I was really struck by your letter because it was very straightforward and simple. I think it was like, hi, I'm a letter seeking representation. I wrote this book, link, here's some samples, links, let me know. And I think I had gotten to the point of slightly psyching myself out of I need to have
I've been there.
This sort of thing. I need to have this credential. And so just to see it laid out like that was very helpful. And it gave me the courage, but then I acted on it 4 years later.
That's okay.
Thank you for sending that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like, what's interesting? I haven't talked about this in a while, but that email that I sent out to agents, I tried like a couple different versions, and I probably reached out to 30 agencies. So I can't say for certain. Like I don't know if that was a big enough sample size, but I did notice that the shorter and straighter to the point ones got me the most responses. And so
Oh, interesting.
that's why that's the one I send to my students and to friends and people who ask, because I had other versions of that same email that was like, "Hi, my name's Lauren. I'm a art director, but I do lettering." And I wrote more about like, I was like, "Oh, the more accolades I talk about, the more likely they're going to want to rep me, right?" And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just, it happened to be the agency or whatnot, but I got fewer responses from the longer, braggier email. And I don't
Oh.
think that bragging about or talking about objective accomplishments is wrong. But I did find that maybe because agents get so many emails, the straight to the point, link to your work and samples attached with like maybe a sprinkling of accolades or things that people might know or be credibility markers are helpful. And that's the
Yeah.
thing too. Like there's a part of me that, you know, there's a part of me that does think or like is skeptical of like, oh, like award shows and client lists and like, you know, getting all those conventional accolades, like those don't really matter. And they don't matter that much. But when you're in a situation like, looking for an agent or pitching yourself to a client, those are my friend Andy J. Pizza. I'm sure you've listened to Creative Pep Talk
Oh,
before.
yeah. Yeah.
Andy has said something about how those are just like, that is a universal language that the average person can understand, that can convey the value of your work in a like heartbeat. And it doesn't
Yeah.
mean that you have to have those things, but it's a really effective, like an attention grabbing headline or communicator.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you found that email helpful. And for Amelia, if you're asking about what I sent out, it was really just, hi, my name's Lauren. Here's my situation. I'm a full-time art director who's looking to make the transition into freelance lettering. Here's my portfolio. I've published a book and worked for, I think at the time when I was reaching out to agents, my biggest clients were, I had done some illustrations for YouTube, and I had done a campaign for the Dallas-Fort Worth Airport. And those were my two biggest projects. Cool. But I also had a published book under my belt. And so that was probably helpful. I had won some industry awards. I had a Webby and a Communication Arts Award, which I think were pretty well known. And so, yeah, I attached 5 low-res JPEGs of my best work and sent that out. I sent out the same work to every agent, and I got mixed responses. Like, I'm really lucky that an agency took a chance on me, but there were 2 agents that wrote me back saying like, thanks so much. Like, your work is just, basically what they said was your work is too homogenous. Like it all looks the same.
Okay.
Which I kind of get, because Daily Dishonesty was the biggest portfolio piece I had at the time. And so, and I think those were like half the samples I had put in. And then because I had gotten client work from Daily Dishonesty, all of my work was in that same vein as well. And so someone could perceive that as, oh, she's consistent, she has a style and a voice, or someone could perceive that as like too much of the same. So I think my advice there too is, if you do reach out to agents, or this actually applies to anybody at any stage, your perceived weaknesses could also be a strength, like to the right client or the right employer. And so don't overthink it, but I know it's easier said than done. Try to just lean into the kind of work that you like to make, and putting as much or as little of it in your portfolio as you want, and tweaking as you go.
Yeah, I read a tweet the other day by, I think his name is Kevin Stanton. He's like an illustrator.
Okay.
And the tweet said, we as illustrators are like funny because we'll take our strengths and we'll refer to them as crutches. And I thought that was
Oh my
so
gosh.
funny. Yes, because I totally do that. I'm like, I
That's
just
so
love using these
true.
colors. It's a crutch for me. But actually, you could reframe it as it's a strength. Like these are colors that I'm just, naturally really comfortable with. And
Oh my
that
God,
reminds me,
absolutely.
yeah, that reminds me of something you said in a previous podcast that you did, where you referred to thinking about what your natural zone of genius is and
Mm.
trying to work within that zone of genius. And I think sometimes I can be quick to discount what my natural zone of genius is as, crutch, or this is just me being lazy.
Mm-hmm.
But really, it's you putting in the work, and that's what you're talented at. So, yeah.
Yeah, that is very true. It's so easy, like easier said than done. Like our perception of things can be so different than what others' perceptions of the same thing are. And so, yeah, our perceived strengths from the outside perspective, we might think are, like you said, yeah, crutches or weaknesses. That's a really eloquent way to put that. What a insightful tweet. I love Twitter for that. That's
Yeah,
like the
me
one
too.
redeeming thing about Twitter.
Indeed, indeed. Um, yeah, Jessica wants to know what the name of that artist is. I think that the artist who said it was named Kevin Stanton, although I might have gotten his first name incorrect. So apologies for that. Well, I do want to also talk a little bit about, now that we've chatted about the past, I would be really interested in hearing about thoughts for the future, and maybe we can share, both of our thoughts for how we're thinking about the world, the future ahead of us. And I think that this is a topic that might resonate with a lot of people, because this year especially has forced us to really, strip away the distractions and just look at yourself and look at your life. Are you happy with it? Truly with zero distractions. So I think that it seems like to me amongst my friend groups that this seems to be the time for a lot of reflection and people instituting some change. So I'm curious to hear about how you've been thinking about, taking risks in your career and, making big moves, such as exploring illustration, or even going to culinary school.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, I know we were briefly chatting before we went live, but in terms of risk, I think from the outside looking in, I get a lot of messages being like, your story is so inspiring. You left the advertising world to do lettering, and now you're going to leave the lettering world for culinary school. And who knows if I'll fully leave the lettering world, but I don't see myself that way. Like I'm a pretty risk averse person, and I credit that to my very pragmatic Asian upbringing. And I think, yeah, when I announced my plan to go to culinary school, I'm not going to go till 2023. And it seems like a long time away, because I guess it is. But I wanted to be able to make a plan and prepare mentally, emotionally, financially, to take a slight break from client work that I'm currently doing and be able to go focus on cooking for a year. It's something I've always wanted to do and just never really entertained the idea of doing until, I guess the background story is, ever since I don't know, for me, for the last decade, I've always joked that if I won the lottery, I would just go to culinary school and then host dinner parties for people for the rest of forever. And that would make me so happy. And I think it's a really interesting prompt to ask yourself, if money were no object, how would I like to spend my time? What would I want to do or learn? And then I had a realization that I didn't have to win the lottery to go to culinary school and do that. I could just fund that myself or take out a loan. It wasn't a $20 million investment. But the framework, the thinking framework was there of this would be fun for me. And so that's kind of how I made my decision. But for the next 2 years, my plans are to continue running my current business and figuring out how to transition so I can step away for a year. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're just tuning in, I have a full-time employee. So I know there's a way to be able to kind of leave things in her hands if that's the way things go, or to just run my online classes. So I figured that 2 years would be enough time for me to plan. And that's going to be the goal. So now that I've announced it publicly and like put it out into the universe that I want to be in the food industry someday, I have a feeling that my design work will naturally shift like a little bit in that direction. And maybe I'll start, as I talk more about food, because food's always been a part of my work, but I've never explicitly said I want to work in food or like with these industries. And now that I've said that, I'm curious. I would love to get more food, like clients coming to me for illustration or lettering work. That'd be really cool over the next 2 years.
Yeah. Or it would be
knows?
cool. It'd be cool if someone was like, "Hey, Lauren, we want you to make a recipe that, for a new dish, which is like the culinary side, and then like the dish includes some kind of design element to it."
Totally. And that's the thing too. Like, I think there's so many parallels between cooking and, creativity or design that hopefully some of it will translate. Who knows? Like coming up with a design for something is basically like coming up with a recipe or we follow, as designers, we follow certain recipes, like tried and true recipes. Like with lettering, there are certain, golden rules that you want to follow to make your lettering look nice. You don't have to follow them, but there are certain things with like design or photography, like the rule of thirds or like that things that are aesthetically pleasing that we've learned from the previous generation that I think, my brain naturally makes cooking analogies anyways. So hopefully I can bring that into my design work as well. What about you? What's in store for you in the future?
I was going to say to your point about school, I was just talking to some friends about how I wish that there was a better way for adults to explore and learn about subjects with the rigor of an academic study, without necessarily having to go through the process of like going back to college, because I don't particularly, for example, care about getting a degree or a credential. I just want to learn for the sake of learning. I want to dive into a topic, and I don't really care about, getting a degree and also the tuition that's involved. One thing that I don't know, it's kind of silly, but we should make space for, all parts of ourselves. One thing I was semi-obsessed with a couple weeks ago was I really started listening to and studying this particular Yale law professor's lectures, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if I go to Yale Law? But like, I don't want to be a lawyer. I just want to like learn from this amazing professor. I've literally listened to like every YouTube and like public lecture that she's done on video.
Wait, who is she? Because now I want to listen too.
Well, okay. Her name is Amy Chua. She is very popularly known as the author of the Tiger Mom book. But most people don't know that book is actually a memoir and has been mischaracterized in the press. But as her full-time job, she's a professor at Yale Law School. And she's written a lot of really interesting books around market-dominant minorities and contract law and all of that. So I find it really interesting to just study, but I don't really care about like being a lawyer. Like I'm not trying to be a lawyer here. I just think it's an interesting subject to study. To the point where I was taking like practice LSATs just to see if I could get in. This was my Elle Woods moment, if you've ever watched Legally Blonde, and she's like,
oh yes,
what, like it's hard? It's like, you want to go to Yale Law? Like, oh, like it's hard. So I would love to learn, about law, and I think everything that goes into it, like philosophy, morality as well. But I don't particularly want to do it in a self-guided way. Like I want to be taken through a narrative by a professor, and then also be joined by other students who are, in similar, educational or academic journeys as mine. Yeah. And so far, I don't really have too many solutions other than going to Yale Law. And my friend actually suggested checking out some local college courses as well.
Oh, I forgot that's an option. But yeah, you're totally right. And I agree. Like, when I posted that I wanted to go to culinary school in the future, I got a lot of responses from people who had been to culinary school who actually did the opposite of what I want to do, where it's like they went to culinary school out of high school, worked in the food industry, and then they went to school for design after that, and they're now designers.
Oh,
And the general consensus I got was like, yay, good for you. But also, if culinary school is going to put you into significant debt, like here are X, Y, and Z ways you can break into the food industry, like either going to local restaurants and asking if you can work for them and like study with them, or going to like a food incubator that a lot of cities have, like nonprofits that can help you incubate like a food business idea you might have. And to be completely transparent, I have 0 food business ideas currently, so that's probably not an option for me. I mostly want to go as a sabbatical / like way to, not do the self-study thing where if I go to school and like go to a physical location, I think I'll be able to commit in a more meaningful way. And it is unfortunate that to do that, you either need to have willpower of steel to self-study on your own.
Yes.
Or you need to have the finances to be able to go and go back to school. I never thought I would be going back to school, but I feel pretty strongly about it and I'm excited by it. But there's just no way I would be able to, like, in theory, I'm going to take 2023 off and just cook every day and document it for you all on the internet. That could work, but I bet like I'd only cook 20% of the time and I would just be flailing the other.
Like you don't know what you don't know.
Totally. And like the most valuable thing I got from going to art school was spending time and meeting people who were in a similar space, who liked the same stuff that I liked, who were going to end up in that industry as well. Like those connections have been really valuable for me as a designer. And I think I can see the same thing happening with food. And I want that community, especially after, and who knows what the next 2 years will be like, but after a year like this, where we've been so cut off from people and community in that meaningful way, I think I'll be glad to have it in 2023, hopefully.
Yeah. My cousin went to culinary school, like I mentioned, and I think it was a pretty rigorous education. Like I think it'd be, my earring. I think it'd be hard for him to. I think it'd be hard for him to have recreated that on his own. I think possibly through an apprenticeship, but it was pretty rigorous from my.
I've been watching I've been watching so much YouTube this year, and I watched a lot of like YouTube videos of people who have gone to different culinary schools and what they thought about it. And different programs are like varying degrees of intense and strict. And so, I'll have to figure out what kind of program I want to go to. But I don't know if I want to be like a restaurant chef. Who knows? Maybe I'll totally fall in love with it and become like a restaurateur. But for now, I just kind of want to, it's kind of like that. I want to get back into that headspace that I was in when I was a student and didn't know what I wanted to do other than like, I think I want to work in advertising, so I'm going to study that. I want to tap back into that, but with food, of like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with this degree, but I know I want to do something with food. And so let me learn everything I can about it and kind of immerse myself in there. And like, maybe I'll learn about things and it'll give me new ideas for projects or a new business. I have no idea.
Yeah, no, I'm totally all for this. Like, I think it's great to go in with like open eyes and just let serendipity do its thing.
Yeah, and it's so interesting too, because if you had asked me maybe not 10 years ago, because I didn't know lettering 10 years ago, but if you had asked me 8 years ago, like what I'm currently doing now is like, I have my dream job and it's amazing. And 22-year-old Lauren would be looking at 30-year-old Lauren being like, what are you doing? Like, aren't you happy? Like, and I am satisfied. I am happy for sure. But it's the gift and curse of being a creative professional, I think, where your business interests are important, but your creative interests really come first. And it's really hard to stay at a job, or even like with freelancing, it can happen too, where a project comes through and you're not super stoked about it, but you need the money or it's a good opportunity, so you take it. And then
Yeah.
halfway through, the project is a total slog and you're like, why did I do this? Even though you're getting paid objectively, like you're getting paid the money, like it's going to be good for your portfolio. You can use all the justifications in the world for why you took on this project or why you're doing this work. But if it doesn't feel good, I think it's a losing game. Like we need to always be in touch with that part of ourselves to sustain like a long-term creative career.
I totally agree. Yeah. And another thing that my friends and I have been talking about is like, I don't want to be hemmed in to my future based on the few successful turns and decisions that I have made in the first like 6 to 7 years of my career. Like that seems a little strange to me. And another thing someone said is like, if you were able to figure it out and make it when you were like 22, I think you should trust yourself that if you took a break and then come back, that you will still be able to figure out, just like you did when you were younger, and you probably will have a better time at it too because you're more experienced and wiser and more mature.
Hopefully. Yeah, I have to remind myself all the time that like I've done this before. And what's interesting, what I've noticed at least, that's different about now versus back then is it feels scarier now than it did then because I think objectively I feel like I have more to lose. Like if this is a bad decision and it doesn't work out in the way that I think it will, which I have no expectations right now, so it's fine. But it feels riskier because I have a good thing going and I've worked so hard for it. But at the same time, I know that I want to do other stuff, and I've been so locked into and focused on doing lettering and building up that part of my business. And it's worked and that's great. But when I was a junior art director, I think I was making $60,000 a year and I didn't really like my job. And I looked at the people who were 5 or 10 years ahead of me at the agency and I didn't really want their jobs in the future either. And so it felt less risky in the sense that there wasn't I was like, I'm pretty sure I can make close to my salary from freelance because I had been freelancing on the side the entire time. And I also figured worst case scenario. Yeah, I didn't jump in blind. I had a plan too when I was leaving advertising, but I figured worst case scenario, like the difference between getting an advertising job at 23 versus 24 or 25 seemed negligible to me. I still had my, degree and my portfolio. So I figured that I would rather take a chance and try something now. And it ended up working out. And yeah, now I figured I would like worst case scenario, I'd burn through my savings and like have to either downsize my living expenses and keep trying to make freelance work or get a part-time job or go back to the advertising industry. But when I weighed out all the scenarios, the worst case scenarios weren't really that bad because they were like 5 safety nets I had to fall through. And yeah, with this one, going to culinary school, I think it took me a while to come to this decision because it felt like, yeah, if it doesn't work out, then have I made a terrible mistake? But I also know that it's going to be fine. And I used to think I wasted my advertising degree too, but I totally didn't. It's definitely bled into the work I've done with my lettering. And so I'm sure if I go to culinary school, something good will happen, but maybe I just don't know about yet, or I'll just be a really great home cook. That's like the worst case scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I think also these things have a tendency to like come together in the future in a way that you cannot see now looking forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny too, because it's like the grass is always greener. Like when I was an up and coming like freelancer, all I wanted to do was book consistent client work and make money and get my name out there. And now that I have those things, I'm kind of bored, which is like, you can't win. You really can't win. Either you are striving for something, or you are And you can enjoy, like, once you've mastered something or gotten the thing that you wanted, you can enjoy it for a bit, but it's not forever. And I think that chasing that satisfaction is what is an interesting, what's the word, trait of creative people. At least I'm generalizing here. So if this doesn't apply to you, I apologize. I'm just speaking.
Yeah, what you're
for
saying
myself.
totally resonates. I'm curious if, and also just keeping an eye on the time, we've got about 5 minutes left in the stream, but I'm curious if you feel like you can look at your career and identify different chapters of it, or has this felt like one continuous chapter to you?
Ooh, I think I lumped my career so far into, I think the first chapter was going to school for advertising and then working in advertising for a little under a year. And then the second chapter has been this doing lettering. Yeah, I'd say 2 chapters. I could maybe break up the second chapter into 2 mini chapters in the sense of, and we can get into this more in the next stream, but I was doing exclusively client work, like lettering for magazines and ad campaigns from 2014 to 2016. So like 2.5 years, maybe, like 2013 to 2016. And then I started teaching online classes at the beginning of 2017, and that really changed my business and it divided up my focus in a way, not in a bad way, but when I started offering online classes, it basically doubled my business, not overnight, but within the span of the year. And I was like, whoa, this is also a really rewarding and also really lucrative income stream for my business. So like, I should focus some of my attention here as well. So that's basically, that boils down to the second mini chapter of me like hiring contractors or even hiring my full-time employee now, like to help still take on client work, but help to for me to be able to manage my online courses and focus on that as well. So yeah, I think those are the little chapters. And then culinary school, I think, will be the third chapter. I think the way I thought of it too was like, I just turned 30 and that's like a third of my life, hopefully. Like, I don't know, my great grandma lived to be 102, I think. So fingers crossed that I get some of that same if I'm still in good health. But yeah, it made me think like, okay, if I hypothetically live to 90, I've ended the first chapter now and I can start the second one. And there was something really liberating about thinking about it in terms of chapters, because the chapter ends and then the new chapter can be whatever else I wanted it to be. It doesn't have to necessarily be a continuation exactly of the first chapter. So that was really helpful for me.
Yeah, I think the Dropbox CEO, Drew Houston, he referenced it as like thirds of your life. Yeah, and so he did a graduation speech to MIT where he talked about thinking about the first, I think, like 10,000 days or something of your life comes at around age 27. I could be getting the unit wrong, so sorry if it's like 10,000 days. We'll
go with it.
Yeah, it's 10,000 somethings, and then the benchmark is like when you're 27. So I like thinking about it like that. And we're almost out of time on this stream, but I would be curious what if you've been thinking about this, in the chat as well, and thoughts that you have around, the direction that you're going in and switching up the path that you're taking. I'm seeing a question from Jessica here about if lettering and illustration and brand design is Lauren's main job, and how she would describe that. Unfortunately, we are almost out of time. But Lauren, in a nutshell, how would you describe your main job?
I would say my main job, I am a hand lettering artist who I get hired for lettering from commercial clients to do like ad campaigns or editorial things. Basically, when words need a little bit of zhuzh, that's where I get called in.
A little pep.
And yeah, and then I also, do content creation occasionally for brands. I also do the occasional mural as well. Over the years, I've expanded my skill set a lot. And I think, yeah, I started as just doing commercial lettering for clients. And then every year I'd like add a little bit more, try a new thing. And so, yeah, I was able to break into the industry with like laser focus, like just doing this one specific style of lettering. And then I slowly expanded from there. But I don't do much brand stuff. I'm a really sucky brand designer, so please don't hire me for that, anyone watching this stream. But I'm good at doing, yeah, like individual pieces, whether it's like a book cover or it's a, you know, piece of artwork that's going to be sold as a poster or something. I'm not good at thinking holistically about brand stuff.
Cool. Well, thank you for answering Jessica's question. And
Of course.
we're right at the end of the stream now, so we will be back here at the exact same time, 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern tomorrow. That will be the final Doodle Therapy of the year. And then we will be back in January. So stay tuned on that.
Exciting.
Yeah, and you know, we'll see you again tomorrow. It's been great to have you, Lauren. And thanks for sharing so openly about your process and how you're thinking about your life and career and all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Feel free to come like with your questions tomorrow. I'm an open book. I got most of my sketch down today, and tomorrow I'll be coloring my design.
Awesome. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody. Bye, Alice.
Bye.